This is an ABP Live Podcast.
Welcome to Cracking Conversations. I am Niharika Nanda, and in this podcast, we talk to people, share experiences, and crack meaningful conversations. Real estate. What do you think when I say this word? Something very particular, right? मतलब we don't think that it is something जो मुझे या आपको impact करेगा या affect करेगा until unless we really want to buy a house. But honestly, that's not the case. And to tell you that how that's not the case, we have a very special guest today on Cracking Conversations, Mr. Deepesh Salgia. Mr. Deepesh Salgia is a distinguished alumnus of IIT Madras, SPJIMR Mumbai and UCLA, and he is presently the director of Shapoorji Pallonji Real Estate. He has also worked with Tatas and Mahindras, and he has also handled a wide range of assignments across the entire concept of real estate, from design to dispute management, licensing to land transactions, sales, strategic planning, and so much more. Having said that, you know that he is clearly a maestro when it comes to real estate. And keeping that in mind, he has written an amazing book by the name of Real Estate, The Good, The Bad, and The Unanswered. So let's welcome on Cracking Conversations, Mr. Deepesh Salgia. Hello Deepesh sir, how are you?
You're doing very well today. How about you?
Very much the same, sir, and I feel very honored to be here talking with you, having this opportunity to get some amount of information and infotainment, education, and a lot more about real estate. So it feels really great to be here and talking to you.
Thank you.
So Deepesh sir, you have worked for so many years in the field of real estate. How did this interest develop inside of you? Because real estate is something that we don't really get to hear much about during our school years or during the early ages of our life. So how did you develop an interest in this particular topic?
You know, what I realized, that in most industries, like you had a culture of professional CEO,
Yes.
like be it automobile or banking or, software or whatever. And these professional CEOs generally have more propensity to write, to publish papers, to do research and
Right.
write books, things, etc.
Yeah.
Our industry has been dominated largely by owners. And
Okay.
owners generally do not have that much propensity to do research or at least publish research.
Yeah.
So I realized that there is definitely a need for doing that. And more so, why? Because the industry has become very big now, real estate.
Right.
It's unlike the 20 years back of less organized, less institutionalized industry. Today is very big. We have listed companies. And another bigger thing is that more important that it's a large employer. So it's a responsible sector now. Now,
Right.
since it become so responsible, it cannot neglect research now. We have
Right.
reached a stage we cannot neglect research. Now, I would not say the research is not done in the past also. In the past, companies like Knight Frank, Prop Equity, Anna and Cushman and many others have done a good amount of research. But please understand, they have certain limitations.
Okay.
They do not have the ringside view that
Right.
developers have.
Right.
So their research largely focus on data and information. So information and data. When it comes to knowledge and wisdom, that remains only with developers.
Right.
So till
Right.
as developers we realize our responsibility towards research, it will never grow. So we have to actively participate in research. That's why I think the idea came up.
That's a great idea, sir, because again, as you said, that you have been someone who has worked in the field, and probably the previous researchers were mostly data-based. So your perspective would be very real and hands-on for the people who would be actually reading the material that you are working on. So that is an amazing thing because
And as I said,
that is-
the ringside
yeah.
view. As I just said, the ringside view.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, sir, how has your experience been of working in real estate from so many years, and how has it changed over the years?
Okay. See, over the years, what of course has seen that the industry has professionalized, we are professionals, and the interesting experience that I would have to share is that when I joined the industry 25 years back, there were a couple of things. One, there was a stigma associated with joining the real estate industry. Or you builder ki company mein kaam karte ho. That was sort of a stigma in the 90s, I would say.
Right.
And secondly, that time, you would find very difficult to get professionals, not because of Sigma, because they didn't have the understanding of qualification of this business.
Right.
So you go to hotel industry, get somebody into real estate. For sales, you try to get somebody from FMCG. You know, so getting those professionals is very different. Today we have a large pool of talent available in the ecosystem which can work in the industry, and I would say still there's a larger need for increasing this pool. And I feel that the gap largely lies in the CEO and the general management space, because in this business you understand the linkages are very high. The design is linked to the costing, and the costing is linked to the demand, and the demand is cash flow, and the cash flow again links to the cost, to the design and construction. So, you know, there are a lot of linkages in the industry. That is why you cannot have divisional heads working independently. Right. This industry is very linked into all departments. That's why the role of the CEO or the owner becomes very critical as compared to other industries. That's one of the biggest learning in 25 years.
So, sir, you have written your book, which is called Real Estate, The Good, the Bad, and the Unanswered. So, can you tell us a little about what's the good, what's the bad, and what's the unanswered bit in real estate?
For that part, I would like the reader to decide, because there are some questions that are, the book is about, any book is largely about questioning the mind, not providing answers. So cinema is about providing solutions and answers like a ready-made food. Book is about making the readers think. So for example, I would say, just one example, builders business is about problem solving. Largely. Every day there's a problem. Every day there's a problem. It's less about planning, I would say, more about problem solving. Right. You know, we always say in our industry, Durghatna nazar hati, Durghatna ghati. Yeah. So every day is a problem. So the moment you are inattentive, you have a problem. Okay. Right. So now, in this that we have to regularly innovate. Because roz nahi problem aati hai. So you have to regularly innovate. Very true. So innovation is a part of a culture. Right. The problem what happens is the innovation in real estate is at the edge of regulation. You can call it a cusp of morality. Okay. Or the threshold of legality. So you cannot say whether it's legal or illegal or moral or immoral, because different people have different perspective on the solutions that builders bring. It's very subjective. Every builder is solving a problem. Yeah. Are very, very subjective. One classic example that I give everybody is that in 80s there was a law which said you can make only small apartment, 800 square feet apartment, and if the builder had to, and that time there are a lot of joint families, right? And they wanted larger apartment. 800 square feet was a bit small apartment for getting to joint families. Okay. So what the builder would do, to get approved plan for a large apartment, show a fictitious wall in between. After the building is ready, he'll break the wall and make a larger apartment. Right. Now, at one level, you say it's illegal. It's a loophole, finding in law to sell his apartment. The other way is that, because of builder, the joint culture system continued in India. People are staying with the parents, not away from parents. So is it good? Is it bad? Unanswered. Right. It is very cultural and a very subjective thing that people have to use their mind for. So one way you can say is that you can take action against builder because illegal काम किया है. Right. One way you say no, that's good job for society. That was the need of the client. And today the building that I'm staying, it has got 300 apartments. All apartments are combined apartments, and we have more than 100 joint families in the building. It's so lovely to see grandparents along with their grandchildren going together. Right. Yes, sir. So that's one example to show you the finer layers between good, bad, and unanswered. Right, exactly. Not a very black and white thing. You have to get into it and actually understand the entire situation. And that is only when you can make a decision what's good and what's bad and probably what's nothing of the two. Yeah. So your book has talked about a very major issue, that is the problem of low incomes and expensive housing. So how do we deal with this? Because this is an issue which talks to the and relates to the bigger part of the society, that is the middle class. So how do we deal with this? How do middle class people deal with this issue? See, a couple of ways to look at such kind of problem. Okay. One way of looking at it is that when you say affordable housing, today for a lot of people, affordable housing means शहर के दूर के एरिया में घर, very distant locations. A developer will come, and that's affordable housing. A home at a distant location, because what is affordable in city really is affordable, you don't call it housing. Arey, pasand ka nahi hai.
Right.
And what is housing? Is so affordable housing remains in what you call an oxymoron. You can't have affordable housing, the same thing,
Right.
So you have to go to distant location. But the real need for a lot of people is to stay within the city. Right?
You
And
can't
within the
stay
city,
in the
problem
outskirts and actually commute every day to work and everything. It's a major issue.
Absolutely. So if you have to stay within the city, the old buildings in the city have to redevelop and create more housing.
Right.
Every city has got, not only Mumbai, every city has got old housing. That has to get read. Now there are a lot of challenges in redevelopment. I will not go into all of the development challenges, but one of the major thing is the land title issue. A lot of these lands belong to families in joint ownership otherwise, and you cannot find the real owner sometimes. So they remain undeveloped for years. And to settle a dispute in joint family is absolutely very difficult.
Yes.
Nobody can settle it. Nobody can settle. Everybody knows it.
Right.
So I personally feel one of the fundamental needs, and the government also can't do it, and the courts can't do it.
Right.
Courts क्या काम करेगा? So I think the first step should be there should be reconciliation centers or arbitration centers of private people. They are licensed by government and many such centers. So the landowners and tenants and occupants can go to them to find a solution.
Okay.
A discussed solution arrived through consensus, not through legal process of court or that. And within 6 months or 1 year, 1.5 years, there can be a consensus solution. So a lot of lands will become sellable and developable in the city.
Right.
And when large land is available in the city, then people don't need to go outside. And city also needs development because a lot of buildings are dilapidated, old buildings. People can't live in such conditions. So that also another reason to develop. So I think the first step is towards that. To increase the amount of developable land within the city area.
Right.
I think that is the first step the government can do, and there is nothing wrong with it because it's through consensus.
Right.
So I think that's the first step to do. And then of course there are other issues in technicality. I will not go into that's a very big story about FSI and redevelopment issues. But I think itna government bhi kar lena, and there's no blame on government. It's through reconciliation and settlement. But today joint families have no arbitrator to settle the disputes.
Right, exactly.
So in fact, I think that's the first step that government can do, and that will apply to all cities, not only Mumbai, across India, because joint family sab jagah hai.
Exactly. That is a very universal thing for the entire country, pretty much.
And also, if you one important thing I would add here, if you have clear land titles, you have really a good amount of asset given to middle class. Today, that land otherwise cannot be mortgaged, can't be sold. The creation of asset also is a good value addition to the ecosystem.
Very true. Very true. So, sir, over the years 25 years, you said that you have worked in the real estate market and the entire industry. So, you must have seen certain challenges that have come at different points. You told in the beginning that there have been changes and improvements have been made in certain specific parts of the entire field and in the entire industry. So what are certain challenges that are still there and they need to be worked upon?
Okay, see, I'll tell you a larger challenge which any government would face is that, real estate is looked upon as a business of the elite class, or sometimes even the I would say less honest class, developers. So any law that government wants to make to support industry is seen as an anti-people law.
Right.
Because you are supporting those people who are making money, who are greedy. That's a perception. That's not true, but that's a perception over the years. So for a government to make a law that supports developers is a big challenge in society. So see, I'll give you an example from the history.
Okay.
Rent control laws. When they were implemented, they continued. The problem that time was rents were rising, and government wanted to have affordable housing. So government put a freeze on the rent prices.
Right.
The solution should have been, and I'm talking about British Jamana. I'm not talking right now. It's like 1920s and 30s when they actually laws came. So there's no political party in India, but still British also had to be friendly to people. Right. They wanted to be friendly to people. So they said rents are frozen. You can't evict a tenant.
Okay.
So that we are supporting tenant. But in a way, what happens? No builder will now make a new building for renting. Because if you can't increase the rent, if you can't remove rent, who will make a new building?
There is no
the
profit.
Law should have been no profit. So what the law should actually have been, we will give incentive. The government should have come a scheme. If you create housing, we will give incentive. We will give some monetary support. But if you give monetary support to builders, government बोलेगी कि सरकार तो builder की सरकार है.
सही बात है, right?
They will make housing and create housing, but the perception is that way. I think that is a larger challenge the industry faces, and everybody, even government also faces. Government wants to make more development laws, but every government, whether state government, central government, is challenged with this problem: how to help industry without being looked upon as pro-builder and anti-people.
Right.
I think other challenges I feel over the years I have realized.
The image is an issue that people need to understand that वो जो एक पुराने ज़माने की image बनी हुई थी, that needs to change, and that things are different now, and they need to understand that. So that is a bigger challenge in the whole scene.
In the entire ecosystem, I would say, yeah.
So, sir, if there are people out there are youngsters or there are newbies of the real estate industry, what are certain advices or what are certain, pearls of wisdom that you would like to share with them from someone who has worked in this industry for 25 years? That's a lot of experience and a lot of work has gone into it. So, what would you like to share with them?
For youngsters, let's say in 20s and 30s, I would say, they have to first, if they are looking at buying a home or renting a home, whatever, they have to first be clear about their goals.
Right.
In the sense that, do they want to live in the city? First thing. Or do they want to keep traveling across India, Bangalore to Bombay to Noida, whatever that way.
Right.
So that decides whether you want to rent out or you want to own a property.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Then secondly, suppose you decide to be only in one city. Okay, both of us are going to work on Gurgaon, for example. Fine. Then one of the choices that normally I would suggest, now that's being personal, so it could be different from different people. Normally, see, offices could change. Husband could be working in one, wife could be working in something. So office distance is not important. The distance of school from your home is very important.
Very important, right.
So typically schools don't change.
Right.
So
For like those 14 years, that's where your kid is going to go. So it needs to be taken into consideration.
उसका school change नहीं होगा. Your offices may change.
Right,
so
right.
If you're going to change close to the office, your office might change tomorrow. So that may not work out. Unless you really plan to be in the company for a long time, which today very few do it.
Right.
So I think school, is one of the important things. People should look at it and to sort of, if that is another concern. I mean, some people don't mind kids traveling a lot. That's a different issue then.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I think that is, so these are the things. And then of course, if your parents are living with you, then you either can the same apartment or next apartment, wherever. So, because that really helps your kids develop.
Right.
Because then kids can see two jobs parallelly. They can learn different things. So if you can accommodate within the apartment or in the same building, that is another kind of, advice I would say. And it really helps because I told you, we have seen so many joint families are building.
Right.
And it's such a lovely thing to see grandfather and grandson playing together in the garden. It's
very true.
It's a very interesting scene, which otherwise today you don't see in society. So I think these are the things I would tell them to look into it.
And sir, what about the young people who are out there looking up to real estate as a career? What would be your advice and your, inspiration? What would you say to them?
Okay. See, today real estate has got not only just number of jobs in terms of large number of jobs, but a variety of jobs.
Right.
Okay. For example, I tell you, earlier the job was only with a developer. Now today you have consultants, you have sales, experts, which are earlier like just a broker. Today they're like a marketing advisor. They advise developers on branding and on customer interaction, CRM, everything. So there's huge amount of scope given that area.
Right.
Third, there are a lot of funds that are funding developers.
Okay.
So on the finance side, funding is another opportunity. Then there are new things coming up in real estate in terms of new structure like REITs coming up, and financial advisory coming up. So because builders have to borrow a lot of money, so the amount of job in the ecosystem and a lot of variety, which earlier was not.
Not right. Exactly.
Second, within the developer also, because a marketing job is sold into finance. For example, if you can sell more, you need to borrow less. So marketing and finance are so linked. So there is a good, if a person has some inclination of finance also, he can actually shift from marketing to finance. Because ultimately, it's only give you finance.
Right.
The biggest source of funding is sales. So there is a good scope for people who have marketing knowledge, and finance can shift interdisciplinary, which is not in other industries.
Mm-hmm.
You can shift from operation to finance also in this industry, but other industries you can't do so easily. So that the portability is very high. I mean, there's probably you of course have the skill sets, but that's a possibility in this industry, which is not there in many other industries.
Definitely. So I think, sir, if people out there who even from the marketing background or from a finance background, if they want to get into real estate, I think that's a great idea because they have an option, a large amount of options to look into, and I think it's a new way of growing, because that is how we get to see that even the industry is growing, and that is how real estate is going to grow. And I think it's a great career opportunity for young people out there who are looking for an option in real estate.
For example, in marketing, a lot of people talk about repeat purchases. Big customer liya hai, so we should get repeat. Amazon will target you again for next buy.
Right.
In business, there are very few repeat purchases. Very few. So how does the marketing strategy change when you don't have repeat? We have practically nil or very limited repeat purchases. घर कितना खरीदेगा आदमी? एक बार खरीदेगा, दो बार खरीदेगा.
एक ही बारी होगा.
This kind of experience you will not get any other industry. So that I think there are a lot of such. And I give another example, like demand curve. आप बोलते हैं कि iPhone है, car है, price गिरा दो, demand बढ़ेगी. Standard economics. Demand curve is about reduce the prices. In real estate, the moment you reduce the prices, the customers want to buy home for living, he will come and buy. सस्ते हो गया. But who is looking investment, he will not come. He'll say बहुत तो गिर रहे हैं. Why should I invest?
Right.
By reducing prices, the home demand will increase or decrease. It's not easy as in other businesses.
Very true.
So this is a very interesting for a management, researchers and management people who really want to enter into new space. I think this is a very interesting industry which I found in 25 years.
That is a very interesting point, because it is not the very standard principle कि यही है तो ऐसा ही रहेगा. It will matter in a different way for the consumer and in a different way for the investor. So हर तरफ से ही confusing situation है, but that is what makes it very different and very unique.
That's why there's a very punchline I have. Most of the principles of microeconomics and business management do not apply to real estate as they apply to other businesses.
Right.
So there is a good chapter on this thing, and in the book also, so people can read that and really understand why this industry is so different. That's why if you see, the owners are more important because they have learned a different thing. And if you come from B school, the thing is different. So that's why that's another challenge of professional CEO versus owner CEO.
Very true.
The thought process is different. And that's a very detailed, I discussed that issue very detailed in the book, how a professional CEO thinks and how a owner CEO thinks.
Right.
So the way I have explained that is a professional CEO uses all available information and makes decision.
Right.
Okay, that's the way you're taught.
Mm-hmm.
An owner CEO finds that unavailable information and makes a decision.
Right.
He knows what's not available in the market. Right. ऐसा होने वाला है, इसलिए इसका FSI बढ़ने वाला है.
And that comes from experience.
And that's what people call it, gut feeling or whatever you want to call it, the sixth sense, whatever. So that's why this business is slightly different.
It's very different and very unique, exactly. And that is why we want mentors like you who are there to guide people who are working in this particular industry, because it is through people like you and your books and your researches that people who don't even have the experience can actually understand the nuances of this particular field. So I think it's a great thing, sir, that you have written this book, Real Estate, The Good, The Bad and The Unanswered, because that is how people are going to get the answers related to real estate. So thank you so much, Deepesh sir, for joining us today for in this conversation about real estate and it was great even for me, because half the time we don't realize the kind of things, the small things that actually go into creating such a huge career in a particular field. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Niharika. It was a wonderful experience talking to you.
Thank you, sir. So guys, you just heard Mr. Deepesh Salgia as he talked about real estate and how it is much more than how we perceive it, right? There is so much more to it. There are so many sides to it and how it actually impacts each one of us. The house that you are staying in right now, of course, it's real estate, and that is how close it is to our everyday life. So I would definitely recommend for all of you to give Real Estate, The Good, The Bad and The Unanswered a read. And for more such meaningful conversations, stay tuned into Cracking Conversations only on ABP Live Podcast. The scripting and the voiceover for this episode was delivered by me, Niharika Nanda, and the sound designing was done by Lalit. For all the latest updates, stay tuned into ABP Live Podcasts.
This is an ABP Live Podcast.